And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Tain is a small game with a simple idea, basically stealing from your opponents and bluffing about when you're stealing and when you're not. It's actually a pretty fun game if you like the bluffing genre, except it probably goes about 1/3 too long. The game lasts for usually 8 rounds, and I would think it would be much better if it lasted only 4 or 5 rounds. But still, if you can cut those down, I think the game still works out fairly well. So let's take a look at Tain and see if you would enjoy it or not. Each player has a shield, which they will hide behind their counters. The counters that they have are 1 chieftain, 1 chieftain's daughter, 2 warriors, 6 boys, and 8 bluffing tokens, which show the oh-so-beautiful picture of a man with his tongue out. You have all these behind your shield. In front of your shield, you will have your land. This is where your cattle are kept. Each player starts the game with 5 cattle, these yellow discs. And this is your house where your jewels are kept, and you start with 3 jewels, these pink discs. Players then choose 1 player to go first, and then they take turn placing their tokens on the houses. When you place a token on your own house, you place it on the inside. This is someone who's defending. Of course, I could put the boy there, or I could put a bluff token there, which means no one's defending. When I'm attacking someone else's house, I would put mine on the outside. For example, that's the green is attacking this house. He puts his on the outside. Brown is invading this cattle area, and he puts his on the outside. There is also another board, which is in the middle of the table, and here is where all the extra cows are placed, and players can send a warrior or a chieftain there, or a bluffing token. Those are the only 3 tokens that can go there, and they're raiding other lands to get cow tokens. So turns take place until everyone has put out all the tiles that they possibly can. You can put up to 5 tiles in your own house, and as many as you can possibly get out on other people's houses on the board. Once all the tokens are out, everyone flips over all these tokens that are on the house. Any bluff tokens are immediately discarded. And when players discard tokens, they're going to be putting them in front of their shields so that you can't use this again until all the ones behind your shields are used. That's why you have to use your bluff tokens and why you have to use these whiny boys. Now, when attacking, a chieftain beats everyone except he is beaten back by a chieftain of the opposing team, or he's also beaten back by an opposing chieftain's daughter. Boys are beaten back by pretty much everybody. They are beaten back, except even worse, if they attack and the spot happens to be defended by a warrior, then the boy is captured and sent to the house of the person who captured him as a prisoner. The princess, or the chieftain's daughter, she successfully defends against the chieftain, and she successfully defends against the boy. She can't even be sent out on a trip. She's only a defender. But if she happens to defend where a warrior comes in, the warrior does not get to take the cow. Instead, he takes the princess's daughter back to his homeland, and she's captured in the house then. So once you've determined who captures who, and there's a few other rules about what happens, if you successfully raid, you then take one of the cows and it will go back to your own house. Or if you successfully raid the house, you'll take back one of the jewels. Or if you successfully raid a house where you have a prisoner, you will free that prisoner instead of taking a jewel, and they'll come back to your side. All the tiles that are used are now placed in front of the shield, and the next round continues. Once you've used up all your tiles, they're placed back behind your shield. The game continues until one person has captured 11 cows, or until 8 rounds are done. Scoring is very simple at the end of the game. Cows are worth 2 points. Jewels are worth 3 points. Captured boys are worth 1 point. Captured princesses are worth 5 points. And if you manage to get 11 cows, then you get a bonus 3 points. Whoever has the most points wins the game. If there's a tie, then whoever has the most cattle, the most number of jewels, eventually you will break the tie. And that's basically it. I really like the bluffing aspect of the game. I really like putting out the tiles and saying, are you attacking my house? Sometimes bluffing ends, in which a player, if you've captured my princess, I'm probably going to be sending my warriors and chieftains there to rescue her, and you'll probably be defending with the same. And so there's a little bit of sometimes obvious things, but where are you sending out who to capture the cattle? You can't capture all the cattle. If someone's rich, there's a more likelihood that they're going to be attacked than the other players. If I have 10 cattle, I think everyone's going to be coming after my cattle. And so I like the bluffing aspect. It's very interesting. You turn over the tiles. I guess maybe what might, see, one of the problems I have here is you turn over the tiles, you turn over the tiles, you place the tiles, you turn over the tiles. Doing that 8 times, it starts to get weary. It's a fun mechanic, but it gets fairly repetitive by the 8th time. Now, I mean, maybe someone will get lucky and get the 11 tokens, but to me, four rounds, and that might be too short. So somewhere between 4 and 6. Of course, then some people might have an unequal amount of turns. I don't know. Also, with the number of players, 2, you won't get your tiles back quite as quickly. With 4 players, you are getting your tiles back almost every turn because you use quite a few of them, and so on the next turn you use the rest and you'll get them back halfway through your turn. And that takes a little bit of the edge off. So the game is probably best with 3 players because with 2, the bluffing aspect's a little bit less because you're just going after the other player and they try and guess where you're coming from. The idea of having this extra cattle field that people run out to and rob, that's a good idea. It gives you a chance to send other people out here. But in a 4-player game, it's depleted of cattle by round 4 easily, which again makes me think there should be fewer rounds. Maybe there should just be fewer rounds for when there's 4 players. That perhaps might be the best solution. The inside of the shield shows you every combination of who beats who and where and what happens. And I find that helpful, but the game theme itself makes a lot of sense. A warrior attacks a princess, he captures her and takes her back. The boy comes in, the princess slaps him around. The boy comes in, the warrior captures him. Chieftain beats almost everybody except he can't afford to hit a woman. Or, you know, it just makes sense thematically. And that's pretty much it. The components, the tiles are pretty good, although a few of them are off-center, but I think in the middle of the game, people aren't really noticing that, and if you play with people who are trying to look at each tile to determine what it is, you're probably better off playing games with other people. I think it might have been better had they used little wooden cows and yellow discs. I don't know how a yellow disc represents a cow at all. Maybe white or black. I think that's kind of a poor design choice. The pink discs for the jewels, that's not a bad idea. The artwork, I really like the artwork, and I think it's hilarious that they use these sticking out tongues for the bluffing tokens. Everything fits in a small box, and like I said, it's not a bad game if it wasn't so long. As it is right now with the rules, it gets tedious towards the end. But I guess you could cut it in half and have an enjoyable time, and that's what I'll do. I'm going to hang on to it for a while because I want to play the short, fast bluffing game of where you put your tiles. Shorter, it would have been much, much better.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.